Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to the second edition of RG's weekly NFL show, where we tackle the biggest topics in the NFL. So last week, we tackled some important topics. We talked about the New Orleans Saints' quarterback situation following Derek Carr's retirement. We also talked about the prospects of the Seattle Seahawks with Sam Darnold at quarterback. So this week, I'd like to segue into another NFC West team, a team that made some headlines over the past few days, the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the 49ers, they made big news by signing their franchise quarterback, Brock Purdy, to a 5-year, $265 million deal. That's $53 million annually, which makes Purdy one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a huge pay raise, needless to say, for a guy who was the last pick in the draft just a few years ago. Congratulations to Brock Purdy. With that being said, the Niners, they've reloaded a bit this offseason. Obviously, they still have a lot of their talented players. You know, they signed George Kittle to a new contract, making him the highest paid tight end in the league. They actually just signed Fred Warner to a new deal, $63 million 3-year deal, which averages out to $21 million per year, making him the highest paid linebacker in the league. So obviously, you know, the Niners, they had a down year last year. They went 6-11, but we all know that they were very injured last year. In fact, they were the most injured team in the NFL last year. Christian McCaffrey was out for basically the entire season. He played about 4 games. And obviously, a lot of their defensive pieces were out for a substantial period of time. Now, with that being said, obviously a lot of those guys have since departed. Guys like Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, wide receiver Deebo Samuel. So the Niners are going to look a bit different this year. Now, the question is that's on everyone's mind is, are the Niners still one of the teams to beat in the NFC? Can they return back to form? Obviously, everybody's paying attention to the Los Angeles Rams now out of that division after the season that they had. They finished the year strong, won the division, almost beat the Eagles in the second round in the snow in Philadelphia. They actually gave the Eagles the biggest run for their money out of any team in the playoffs. So a lot of people are high on the Rams. Now, as far as the Niners are concerned, I will say this. I don't know if they're the team to beat in the NFC any longer, even when healthy. The NFC has kind of caught up to them, if not surpassed them. I mean, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have it figured out. They proved it when they won the Super Bowl this past season. Everything kind of runs through Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the league. Jalen Hurts, as a result, plays better with the offensive running through Saquon. You look at the Detroit Lions, yeah, I know that they went through a heartbreaker, losing to the Commanders at home in the playoffs, but man, throughout the regular season last year, they were the most dominant team in the NFL, or you could say the best team in the NFL, despite being the most injured team in the NFL, alongside the San Francisco 49ers. So they're going to be back with a vengeance again this year. With that being said, the Niners, this is still a team to fear. This is still one of the top teams in the NFC. It actually would not surprise me if they won the division this year. At the very least, they should be in the playoffs. They should be competing with the Rams. You might have the Seahawks in there. Let's see how they do with Sam Darnold. I do like Sam Darnold, like I said last week. But yeah, it'll be the Niners and the Rams for the most part at the top of that division. This is where my concern is. Brock Purdy, I like Brock Purdy. Like I said before, I've interviewed Brock Purdy. He's a great guy, just a down-to-earth guy. If he didn't tell you that he was an NFL quarterback, if you didn't know that he was an NFL quarterback, you'd think he was just a regular guy. He's that humble. He's just that down-to-earth. But as much as I like Purdy, and as solid of a quarterback as he is, and you could argue, yeah, he's a top 10 quarterback, when he has a supporting cast, when everything's going right, he's not a guy that's going to carry a team on his back. I think that showed last year. Again, I know they were very depleted last year. They were 29th in points allowed on defense. You're not going to win many games when your defense plays like that. But time and time again, in close situations, in close games, in the fourth quarter, because things weren't going perfectly right with a lead, Brock Purdy came up short a lot of times. Now, that's not to say he's not a franchise quarterback. He certainly is a franchise quarterback. Heck, just a couple of years ago, he was top 5 in MVP voting. And only his second year starting at quarterback. That's insane when you think about it. There's no reason not to believe that Purdy can't replicate that type of success again with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, with a healthy Brandon Ayuk, who was also injured last year. But when you give a quarterback this kind of money, what happens more often than not, that team comes up short of the Super Bowl. I'm looking at this list right over here. The top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, that is, in the NFL, neither of them have won a Super Bowl. Not a single one. I'm talking about Dak Prescott, I'm talking about Josh Allen, I'm talking about Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua, now Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. It's just not very conducive to success when you pay your quarterback that much money. Especially one who one could argue is in the same tier as a guy like Dak Prescott or Tua. It's not an insult. I mean, those guys are guys that are franchise quarterbacks that went healthy. They lead your team to the playoffs every year. They're just not quarterbacks that's going to get you to the next level or put a team on their backs and lift them to several victories on their way to a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. Brock Purdy's kind of in that tier. Again, he's been to a Super Bowl, okay? But again, a lot of things have to go right for the Niners. They have to be fully healthy. Even with a fully healthy Niners roster, I don't know. Again, I don't think that they beat the Eagles in the playoffs. I don't think that they beat the Lions in the playoffs. I'm not even sure if they're the best team in their own division. But, like I said before, kudos to Brock Purdy. He's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Certainly, I guess, earned it, so to speak. I just think that there's a ceiling with this Niners team. I don't know if they're getting better. They're kind of maybe slightly worse than they were a couple of years ago when they were last in the Super Bowl. But, again, this is a reloaded roster. This is the reason why they allowed so many guys to walk, so many key figures of their team over the past few years so that they can create salary cap space to sign Brock Purdy, to sign Fred Warner, to sign George Kittle. With that being said, I want to segue into my interview with Ed McCaffrey, former San Francisco 49ers wide receiver, former Super Bowl champion wide receiver, and, of course, the dad of Christian McCaffrey. Here's why he argues that the Niners should again be one of the very best teams in the NFL because they have a loaded roster.
Yeah, I think people forget so quickly, and I get it. If you lose some games, that team's on the back burner. But you got to remember, this team was in the Super Bowl a couple years ago and in the NFC Championship the year before that, and they're about to sign their quarterback to a $50 to $60 million a year deal. You need your quarterback. They're about ready to lock him up. They just signed George Kittle, one of the best tight ends of all time. Trent Williams is coming back at left tackle. We forget they lost Brandon Ayuk for almost the whole season. That's their starting wide receiver outside the numbers. Christian missed most of the year. So they had like 4, all-pro, Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame caliber guys. Greenlaw missed all last year. Hufanga missed a lot of the year. Ward didn't play because of an off-field tragedy. So they were missing so many guys. You got to throw last year out the window. Thought they had a good draft, a lot of defensive guys that they needed to draft some defensive linemen and linebackers. So they added to the defense, added to the offense a little bit later, but they have a lot of great players coming back. So, on paper, I think they're probably the favorite to win their division by most NFL analysts. If not, they're definitely competing. And, the Rams have a solid team as well, but they're right back in the hunt.
Yeah, you were kind of touching upon that, how people kind of have short-term memories. So, long story short, if they're healthy, you just said they re-signed Kittle, they're going to do it with Purdy. When healthy, they're still one of the better teams in the NFC. They're still one of the best.
Yeah, and I don't even say when healthy anymore, just because that's for every team, right? Like if you took a team that was healthy last year and take away their 5 best players, they're no longer in the hunt, right? So, That's just the way it is in the NFL. So if you have bad luck, you have bad luck. What are you going to do about it? But their roster as it stands right now is loaded.
Obviously, Christian, you brought it up. He had a tough season last year with the injuries, and it's tough considering he was a top five MVP candidate the year before. He's getting a little bit older, obviously, for a running back, 29 years old, going on 30. You had a long career. You played till you were 35, I remember it. So, have you given Christian any advice as he gets into his later years in the NFL?
Yeah, I say fall in love with the process. I really don't need to give Christian any advice, honestly. Like, he's a full grown man. He's been playing a long time. He gets it. He's always kind of gotten it, but he's in love with the process. And I encourage all young players, fall in love with the process. Work every day on being better than you were the day before. Right. And when you fall in love with your process, he loves training. He loves working out. He loves the off season because he gets bigger, stronger, faster. And he loves that whole and if you just focus on that, you enjoy every day, and then you play for as long as you can, but you never look past today, right? So, you know, I played 13 years, and when I finally decided to retire, it just kind of hit me. Okay, I'm ready. But, you see guys like Tom Brady play till they're 40. I don't, it's different than it used to be. Guys can play for a long, long time, but more importantly, you want to play at the highest level possible today. So don't look too far into the future. Just live every day like it's your last. Train to be the best player you can be there for your team, and have fun, man. Life's too short to not have fun doing what you love to do.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, since you're obviously Christian's father. I've interviewed him a few times. This is the first time I'm speaking to you. But what would you say is Christian's best trait? Because from talking to him, I noticed he's just very determined, very motivated at all times. Would you say that that's accurate?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, he's competitive, incredible work ethic, determined and all that stuff. But also, we were talking about a processor with quarterbacks. He processes probably better than any running back that's ever played the game, and he's the best receiving running back out of the backfield that's ever played the game. I mean, that's just a fact. And so I think those types of backs, based on the way the passing game has evolved in the NFL, are the type of backs that are going to be highly regarded moving forward. I mean, you're always going to need a first and second down guy, and those guys are valuable. But having a guy that doesn't leave the field, that can contribute on third down and be, when we say a receiver, like there's a difference between, catching checkdowns or catching wide routes or swing routes or running the running back route tree and lining up in the slot and going man to man versus a safety or a linebacker running a stutter comeback outside the numbers like that. There's a huge difference. That's like being able to play receiver and running back, not running routes as a running back, but being able to play two different positions. And there's not too many players that can do that. And that, and just vision. Vision's another quality that running backs have. So the great running backs have incredible vision. They see how the play is developing. In the run game, they follow their blockers, and they know when to stick their foot in the ground and get downhill. And not every running back has great vision. The best running backs do. I think that's probably a quality that running backs need to possess to be great, that's not talked about enough.
As you heard from Eddie Mack himself, he's a big believer in the Niners, believes that they also reloaded through the draft. They also had a heck of a draft where they really focused on beefing up the trenches. So again, we'll see what happens. I don't doubt at all that the Niners will be back in the thick of the playoff race. They'll be a playoff team. I just don't know if they have it in them to beat the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, or other NFC teams. So we'll see what happens. I want to now transition into our next topic at hand, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I find them very interesting. Obviously, they've been one of the most successful teams in the NFL over the past half decade. They've made it to the playoffs 5 consecutive years. They've won the division title now 4 straight years. So, actually, as far as longest playoff streaks in the NFC, they have the longest. They have the longest playoff streak in the NFC. They have the 3rd longest playoff streak in the NFL. So yeah, this is a heck of a well-run machine, a hell of a well-run franchise by GM Jason Licht. they're an interesting team. Obviously, they don't put up impressive records during the regular season. They'll win 10-9 games every year, but they'll still get into the playoffs. They'll win their division, and they put up a heck of a fight in the playoffs. This past year that they should have beaten the Washington Commanders. They had controlled most of that game until a turnover in the fourth quarter by Baker Mayfield where he fumbled the football. Kind of turned the momentum of the game over to the Commanders. Buccaneers end up losing on a field goal. And then it was only a couple of years ago that they nearly beat the Detroit Lions in Detroit in the divisional round. So this is a pesky team with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. The reason why I want to talk about them is because I just interviewed Rachaad White, key running back of theirs, a guy who's been there now entering his fourth year. And he had some interesting things to say about his team. He talks about how he definitely believes in the Buccaneers. He definitely believes they're right there with the elite of the NFC, of the NFL, and that what has cost the Buccaneers in recent years, since he's arrived, which was in 2022, Tom Brady's last year there, is that they've come up short when it comes to situational football. And it's hard to argue against that. He also brings up a lot of good points where he talks about the receiving core. He talks about how stacked they are. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and then now they got the rookie, Ibuka from Ohio State. So it's like you look at that receiving core and you're like, man, that's among the best in the NFL. You could argue that they are. They have the best receiving core in the NFL when healthy. And then Baker Mayfield, he's been a Pro Bowl quarterback ever since he's been in Tampa. He's been one of the NFL's best quarterbacks. He threw 41 touchdowns last year. Okay? This is a bona fide great quarterback in the NFL right now in Baker Mayfield. So what's missing here in Tampa? Why are they coming up short? Well, yeah, Rachaad White said it is situational football. That is true. That's the difference in the NFL and NFL playoff games between two closely matched teams. Who's going to execute in the key moments of a game? All it takes is one moment where you come short, and that costs you the game. Now that's happened with the Buccaneers over the past couple of years, obviously. But I want to bring up other areas where the Buccaneers are coming up short, and hopefully they can rectify that this year. Yes, they have a top 5 offense in the NFL. They've now rectified the rushing attack, which used to be the worst in the NFL. Now they have one of the best rushing duos in the NFL with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. They're ranked 4th in the NFL in rushing last year. So that's not the problem. The problem is, they're 16th in defense. That's an issue, Todd Bowles is supposed to be known for his defense, but somehow the Buccaneers have become this offensive-driven team. That's fine, but you got to at least play some competent defense. So not only are they 16th in defense, they're not forcing turnovers either. They ranked 16th in turnovers forced last year. They only forced 7 interceptions last year. They're just not a playmaking team. They don't make plays on defense. That changes the course of a game, whether that's through a sack, whether that's through a forced fumble, a forced turnover, a forced interception. They don't do that. The Buccaneers didn't do that at all last year. I talked with Rondé Barber a couple months ago. Buccaneers great, Hall of Fame defensive back. Spent his entire career in Tampa. Very smart guy. He said the exact same thing. The Buccaneers, that's what they're lacking. They don't have an edge rusher that's going to make a game-changing play. They don't have a defensive back that's going to make a game-changing play. Obviously, with their second pick, they picked up Benjamin Morrison, heck of a cornerback from Notre Dame. Probably would have been a first-round draft pick if not for his history with injuries. So hopefully he can change things in Tampa Bay. With that being said, I just brought up all their weaknesses, all the Buccaneers' weaknesses. But when you look at this team from a talent standpoint, they match up with the very best in the NFL. I mean, you look at last year. Guys, they beat the Lions last year, the best regular season team in the NFL. Okay? They beat the Eagles, the eventual Super Bowl champs. Okay? They've repeatedly beaten the Eagles, over the past few years. They beat them in the playoffs just a couple of years ago. Okay? They beat the Chargers, 4-17. Thumped them. Okay? And then they lost the game against the Commanders. I know it doesn't matter now. Okay? They lost, but they controlled that game. They controlled that game until the fourth quarter, until that Baker Mayfield fumble. Okay? So, when I look at this team, I mean, this is a real sleeper team in the NFL. they're just waiting to break through this glass ceiling where they haven't been able to get through the divisional round since they won the Super Bowl in the 2020 season. But you look at the division that they play in, it's very weak. The Saints, unless they pick up a veteran quarterback, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers, jury's out on them. They're probably still going to be a sub 500 team. Falcons, that may be the only threat to the Buccaneers in that division. And even the Falcons, they're about an 8 or 9 win team, honestly, in the best case scenario. They don't have nearly as much talent as Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay should, once again, they should run away with that division, honestly, this year. But when you look at this roster, Baker Mayfield's about to enter his 3rd year. Rachaad White is entering his contract year. He has something to prove. He told me that in his interview with me. You know, he wants to prove his worth this year. Okay? You look at the receiving core, my God, that 3-headed monster, arguably the best in the NFL. So what I'm trying to say here is they get that defensive playmaker, whether that's off of the edge, whether that's at cornerback, forcing interceptions, forcing sacks with the edge rusher. This is a team that could very well go deep into the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if they advanced the NFC Championship game and if maybe the chips fell in the proper manner. Heck, maybe even a potential Super Bowl run. I want you guys to check out my interview here with Rachaad White, where he goes into great detail about how the Buccaneers need to execute in situational football situations and why he's confident in their team because they're among the most talented roster-wise in the NFL. Check it out. Hey, Rachaad, I want to talk about some Buccaneers-related topics, man. Obviously, you're a veteran running back now. You're about to enter your 4th season. What are some ways you're looking to get better entering your 4th season? What are some things you worked on in the offseason?
I mean, a lot of things I've just been working on is a lot of hip mobility, a lot of mobility in general, joints, movements, and from my toes to my feet. You kind of going through your career growing up, like you start to realize and look at certain things and maybe deficiency things of why you ain't moving how you want to. I also kind of had slimmed down and just cut up and got lean instead of being as big as I was. I shredded weight and got cut up and got lean. I mean, obviously, I'm blessed to still be big because I'm one of the taller backs in the league. But I said that's been the biggest thing, and it's always just being faster, bigger, obviously stronger, being able to move right, being able to transition the weight the way I want it to be. So that's the biggest things I've been focused on. Coming in this off season and that I've been focused on in this off season, a good amount of it. And, I'm ready to see what the year holds. Like you said, I'm coming to my last year of my deal. I'm not fighting anything out. What I'm saying? I'm ready to, prove what I got and what I got going on.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you're entering the final year of your rookie contract. Kind of what's your mental approach entering that final year of your rookie contract?
I think my biggest thing is attack every day and show them who I am. At the end of the day, like you can only control what you can control, but at the end of the day, you got to go out there and prove it every day. And I look at that in all walks of life. So I'm just going out in my mindset, just attack every day, show them who I am, and and let the chips fall where they may. And I think they're gonna fall very, very well. They have been in my life before, and I just know what I bring to the table. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I want to ask, it's hard to believe you're entering your 4th season, like I said. You're a veteran running back now. What's the biggest difference between the Rachaad White of now compared to 3 years ago when he first started his career in 2022?
I think the biggest thing, Rachaad White versus now to when he started his career, I think it's just mindset, man. Just understanding, just being who I am. Regardless what people think about me, what people got going on. Obviously, you kind of want to. You kind of fall into the category of kind of sometimes getting outside your character, worried about trying to be perfect or trying to be this. The biggest thing for Rachaad White now, he's just gonna be who he is, and it's all gonna work out for him. People gonna accept him for who he is, and he gonna play, he gonna have fun, he gonna enjoy the game, man, and just go out there. Blessed to be able to play a child's game. Really, at the end of the day, the game we've been playing our whole life as kids and things like that. So, I like to think about it and keep it that way, and just like I said, just have fun.
Yeah, obviously you continue to grow as a running back. You and Bucky Irving form one of the best running back duos in the NFL. Recently appeared on a show and gave a lot of credit to you for his development as a running back. How would you describe your relationship with Bucky? And I know there's a lot of running back duos in the NFL, and they have like names like nicknames that they give themselves. Do you guys have like a nickname for your duo?
Nah, yeah, we do the handshake all the time. We call each other the bad boys, obviously. And so we do the bad boy. We got our bad boy handshake and things like that that we do. So we call it. That's our nickname for ourselves. We call each other bad boys for sure. So you know how I go. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. That's a classic. One of the ones. One of the movies. But yeah, man, it's been amazing. I would say our relationship for us is great. We pick each other back. Like how he came in and worked, man. I respected that out the gate, man, and always talk to him. We always talk to each other. We always try to communicate, man. We got a lot of good things going for one another, and we're really passionate. We care about one another, bro. Succeeding, and we just trying to win, bro. At the end of the day, and we both just trying to stay fresh and trying to stay healthy. So I think that's what we do very well at, and understand that we both bring different aspects to the game. And he be him, I be me, and then when it come together, because we got packages for both of us in there, man, it just be amazing. So it's just amazing to see. But man, I always tell him too, proud of what he did and the season he had. He know that, man, and we talk almost all the time.
Yeah, Rachaad, I got to touch upon this topic. Obviously, when you first started your career in Tampa, you guys weren't known as a great rushing attack. I think you guys had one of the worst rushing attacks in the league. But last year, you guys really came out. Became one of the best rushing attacks in the league. That's going to bring a lot of pride for you and Bucky, right? Lifting Tampa all the way up to becoming one of the better rushing attacks in the league, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we know what we both bring to the table, but me and him, how we are, we don't try to, like, you feel me? We not one of them, like, egos and pride backfield and stuff like that. We like to give credit where credit is due. Of course, a lot of things have transpired of like the Russian attack and things like that. It's a lot of things that go into it, and how me and him are, we like to give our O line a lot of credit. We feel like we got a great O line, and we all got better throughout the year together in unison. And I mean, we like to give obviously Lim Corin a lot of credit. The scheme, I mean, situation, all that plays a factor, man. So obviously, two wide receivers blocking and things like that in the West Coast system that we run. So yeah, of course, we be us and we make plays and we do our thing as much as me and him talk about. But at the end of the day, we like to give a lot of credit to like the other guys, really, because I mean, we play in a dependable position, and them guys got to do their job. Now, yeah, we gotta, be athletes and make things shakes and be running backs, but at the end of the day, them guys be holding it down up front and on the outside for us.
Yeah, like you're saying, Rashad, it's definitely a team effort, everything in football. I want to
Yeah.
touch upon this topic. Obviously, you've been a playoff team every year you've been there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the better organizations in the NFL. You've kind of had issues in recent years as far as advancing deeper into the playoffs. What do you think is the key? But you've been right there at the doorstep. What do you think is the key for the Buccaneers to get to that level, being an elite team?
For us, it's just like little things, man, little mistakes, and crucial moments. And I say like that's the biggest thing, man. I say we, as a whole, keeping each other accountable and keeping each other locked in and focused, and really just pursuing that goal that we got. Like you said, I mean, I've been blessed and fortunate to make the playoffs. I mean, 3 years out of my obviously I'm going to my fourth, but um, which that's a blessing. But like you said, man, just trying to get over that hump, man. And I mean, my rookie year, well, we got blown out playoff game, and then we come back the next year and we win, and then we lose a close one to Detroit, and then we come back the next year, last year, and we lose a close one to Washington. So I just say, man, the little things, bro, we just got to clean them up, and especially like situational football, because when you get to the playoffs, a lot of it is about situational football, man, and making the plays count that you get, because the game slows down a whole lot. So um, I say that's the biggest thing, man, and really trusting and believing in one another. Everybody doing their job.
Yeah, it's like what you're saying, situational football. So that game against Commanders, for example, I mean, it doesn't matter now, but you guys had controlled most of that game. You led for most of that game. It was a mistake here or there that kind of cost you the game. It's all just a matter of situational football and cleaning up that one or two miscue, is what you're basically saying. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I say that's the biggest thing for sure. I mean, we right there. I mean, I tell my boys all the time, man. Look at our roster against a lot of people roster. A lot of people sleep on us, and it's okay. I see it all the time, which it is what it is, bro. They talk about since I've been in the league, they talk about markets and all that, man. None of that really matters. You go out there and play ball, man. But when we look at, and like I said, give Jason them a lot of credit. When we look at like the roster we have built, bro, and if I'm just being honest, and you match us up against a lot of other rosters, I don't think we far off from anybody. I really think we up there with the best of the best, and that's just me being honest, not being, I'm very logical, reasonable guy, like what I'm saying, rational guy. So, um, I mean, I look at it, I match up, whatever it is. Our wide receivers, our backfield up against anybody, sure. Even our O line up against anybody, sure. I like our tight ends too. They slept on. People talk about that all the time, but everybody go for like the big names and all that, but we're not really with the cloud over here. We just about handling our business, and that's what we've been doing. But yeah, at the end of the day, when them games come down to it, and to get up for us to get over that hump, we just got to clean up the situational football, man, and just clean up, like you said, the miscues, bro.
Yeah, Rashaad, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's 5 straight years. You guys have been in the playoffs. You're one of the best organizations in football. That's the first time that's ever been done in Buccaneers franchise history. It's kind of funny. You've been through two eras of Buccaneers football in a way because you played with both Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. So my first question is, what's it like playing with Baker Mayfield? What makes him such a great leader? He seems like such a great guy to rally around.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think for him being down to earth, humble, but him just having that chip, man, and being passionate, man, and caring about what he do. Obviously, he been through some stuff, man. So, I mean, I've been able to lean on him and just rap with him about like some of the stuff he been through, like ups and downs in the league and stuff like that. Things like that, and just picking his brain and just understanding who he is as a human being. And I think that's what he did. He came in here energetic, energy, juice, and swagger, bro. Even though it's a different type of swagger, but he still got swag. I give him that. And you know what I'm saying? And he took it and ran with it. So I just think that's who he is. His confidence, his swagger, his juice, and how far he have came, and just the journey, man. And me and him talk about that all the time. Just the journey, man, the process, and it shapes you to be kind of who you are. You can take whatever you want out of it. So, and just learn from it. So I really like that. And that's what he has brought to this team, man. Just swagger, confidence, charisma, energy, and a guy we know that's going to give us his all. So, we're going to do the same thing.
Yeah, man, like you're saying, that swagger, that chip on his shoulder, that permeates throughout the team, right? It just energizes the rest of the team, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I want to touch upon this topic real quick. I know you played only 1 year with Tom Brady, but any notable Tom Brady stories? And what's the biggest thing you learned from the GOAT?
Man, I ain't even got no notable like crazy stories that I seen him do or seen anything. TB like a ghost man, really though. But like he was there, of course. I'm not trying to say that. I don't want people to take that from his interview. But like he was a ghost man. Like he there, and next thing you know, you look up and but it's time to go. He gone. Like it disappeared. But I mean, like when it comes down to like him as a man, him as a person, him as a human being, I ain't gonna lie. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was great. Especially for like being a 40-year-old man to have that much patience, man, that was huge. And I know him having them kids helped him out with that, from what I'm learning. But I'll just say it was awesome, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like his smile, everything about him, man, it was good. It was good. His leadership, his mind, man. I think mindset wise, man, he was for sure one of the most different people I've been around. One of the most smartest guys I've been around. And so for me as a young guy, what he helped me with is just understand and just go out there, like I just said, man, be me, have fun, don't be a robot. Uh, don't feel like you gotta do anything out your character to show anybody anything. Like just be you and have fun and do your thing. And I've been trying to stick with that ever since.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So, like, the biggest thing you would say that you learned from Tom is be authentic, and then also, I guess, how to carry yourself every day, being a leader, right?
Yeah, for sure. Being a leader, being authentic, and I mean, if you know how much you really care about this, go. Let's go. Like gotta go all the time. Like so I think that's the biggest thing.
Cool, man. Rashad, last football related question from me. Obviously, you're entering, like I said, like we've talked about, you're entering your fourth season. High expectations for the Buccaneers as a playoff team. Any concrete objectives for the 2025 season, whether that's individual or team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I don't know how people gonna view it. We see it every year of, they think somebody else gonna win a division and things like that. Um, I
Oh,
mean,
you
I don't
said,
see that. Yeah, like people go on shows or like, what I'm saying, the shows. Like we all watch it. It is what it is, or come across our stuff. Like it's life. That's what we are now in this world, right? So I just, think, just want to tell the people, just think twice before they say something that they ain't really thought about, that they ain't really realized, on the aspect of our team and what we're gonna do. And I just say stay tuned, be tuned in. I think we're gonna put together a hell of a year, and I really feel like it's gonna be special, and that's just real, and you can see it on my face.
And there you have it. Rachaad White, he knows better than anybody about the Buccaneers' potential, about their ceiling, about what they can do when they're at their very best. So hopefully this is the year that the Buccaneers can put it all together. Hopefully they can stay relatively healthy. They were pretty banged up last year. Chris Godwin obviously out for the majority of the year due to injury. Even with Mike Evans out for a few games, Evans was out, Chris Godwin was out. I think Cade Otton was their best receiving target in their game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. They nearly beat the Chiefs. Nearly ended their undefeated run on Monday Night Football with basically just Baker Mayfield, Sterling Shepard, and Cade Otton, as his receiving targets. So the Buccaneers, they're definitely one of these sleeper teams in the NFL this year. I'd argue they're the biggest sleeper team in the NFL this year. Do not be surprised if they surpass their win total from last year, which was 10 wins. And don't be surprised if they make a deep playoff run this year. NFC Championship game, heck, who knows? Maybe even a Super Bowl if the chips fall where they may. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me once again for our second edition of the weekly RG NFL show. Make sure you click subscribe and make sure you follow our channel at the RG Media 1 on YouTube. Until next time, guys, I'll see ya.